In the old days, let us say the 1950s, go back. I'm not sure. Let's say the light bill came, let's say the light company came somewhere in the 60s. So the 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 uh the late 50s, early 60s light, and the water bill or water city water came in the mid 80s, and the internet came in the mid 90s. That is to the Cayman Islands. Now, prior to the electric light throughout the island, lights in people's homes and lights on the streets, uh, many old timers would report various sightings of what we would now call paranormal activity. They would sometimes describe or recall balls of light and in the late night without any rational explanation, or they would um, how they had a thing called a May cow, some would say May calf, that was allegedly some form of apparition, like some form of creature, like some form of bull, and it had chains and stuff on it. And when it would move through the area, it would rattle. And there was various different apparitions that people know in the United States would call, say, ghosts or some form of spirit. But in the West Indies, in the Cayman Islands, they call them dappies. Now, in my studies of this paranormal activity, it was always concluded, written sources as well as my interviews of family members, it's unanimously agreed within the community that once the electric light came, these apparitions ceased, or they went down to a very minimal. Now, I had a theory, and my theory that I came up with was that once the power came, the light and the water, and later the internet, that all of the attention that would be given to, let us say, what we would call spirits or dappies, the fair, people would have fair. Um, all of that fair would be redirected and refocused at the end of the month towards, say, the light bill. So the whole entire island, we're talking about thousands of people now, um, at the end of the month, focusing on light bill, and there being anxiety, or later water bill, and of course later the internet bill. But all bills carry a form of anxiety. And I had this feeling that once this fear was directed to these institutions, that played a part in the lessening of these paranormal activities. But at the time, I had that theory, but that's as far as it went. But later on, studying other occult philosophies and so on, I came into the notion of a thing called an egregore. And apparently egregore is somewhat of a entity, some form of spiritual energy or entity that is created when people put their focus on a given subject matter, and this egregore feeds off of it. So I didn't have the word. I had a vague idea of the concept, but after I learned about egregore, I realized that the light bill, water bill, and now internet were all forms of egregores that the people would are constantly feeding. So believe it or not, um, it is neither here nor there. After all, people believed in seeing these apparitions, dappies, and also people don't tend to report seeing them anymore. But a fact remains: the entire island at the end of the month, this is an undisputable fact. Most people suffer from anxiety when those bills come around. So whether you believe in the egregore or not, that is immaterial, because at the end of the day, I can guarantee that most people who would have heard this, what I'm saying, we can all agree will suffer from anxiety. Now the question is, how does one stop feeding the egregore? How does one reframe their perspective? Well, I'll leave that up to my notebook LM uh, podcasters to flesh that one out.